Welcome back to the program. Now let's look at the legal position in Nigeria. Nigeria has the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015, which in Section 6 prohibits female genital mutilation and female circumcision. How effective is this piece of legislation?
Okay, you know that the VAP Act, it came into existence. It was enacted last year. It was precisely May 2015. So people are still trying to understand the Act. We're trying to understand the provisions of the Act and the opportunities and the advantages that we can take with the Act. But also, it's good to say here that the Act for now is restricted to Abuja, FCT Metropolis. That's what it is, FCT. So, but we're even with that, it's a very good, it gives us a very good mileage, because we are going to be able to use the Act to leverage actions in the states where we have the bills, where we have legislations that ban FGM. That's how we are using the Act now. So, but we need to know that even before the Act came into being last year, we've had legislations banning FGM in some of the states, where even beyond the states where we're working. We have legislation in Osun State, has been there for some time. We have in Ekiti. We have in Imo. No, we don't have in Imo yet. We have in Ebonyi. So we have legislations there. But what you see is people don't really use it. It's not the problem is the implementation and the enforcement of these legislations, because people, for instance, people may not even know that it's there. They may not know what provisions is there, and sometimes the provisions are so weak and they don't make meaning. You know, for instance, if somebody mutilates and they pay 20,000 naira, what does it mean? What does that mean? So sometimes it's not strong enough, and sometimes basically it does not even encourage people to abandon. You know what happens? I know that legislation is good, because we need a strong legislative framework to be able to to be able to accelerate the abandonment of FGM. But what it does is also makes people practice to go underground. So because people know there is a legislation and there is a ban on FGM, that if they cut, they are going to go to jail, or they are going to do this or that, they tend to continue to do it, but they do it secretly now. So it becomes even worse. You know, they do it secretly now, so they go and it continues on the ground. And because there was something that happened in one of the states while intervening. There was a pregnant woman who was mutilated, who had gone to have a baby, and then that was infibulation. The type she had was infibulation. So they took her to a TBA. I think the TBA they tried to have the baby couldn't come. The head of the baby was just visible there in the, you know. So the baby couldn't come. So they were advised to take her to the hospital. And they said, no, they can't take her to the hospital, because there is a legislation, there is a law that if they take her to the hospital, the police will know and they will be made to pay for it. So what they did was they took this woman to a person who they thought was a greater TBA with much more experience. And when they got there, by the time they got there, and the woman tried, and she died, and the baby died. So legislation is important. It's important, but we must make sure that what is more important is to catalyze action in the communities. That
more awareness campaigns.
Yes, community consensus. The community themselves must agree that they don't want FGM again.
And how do you ensure that that happens?
When we begin to show them the impact of FGM, when we begin to show them that that women die, that FGM is a major contributor to maternal mortality, if we begin to show them that FGM does not stop promiscuity, that instead it reverses. It can, because the clitoris is no longer there to do what it's supposed to do for the body sexually, that it can actually influence promiscuity, not only on the part of the man, or on the part of the woman, but also on the man. Because if a man cannot, achieve coitus with his spouse, the man is more likely to go outside and seek for pleasure. So if we begin to educate, if we begin to let people know that there are severe impacts of FGM on women and girls, I think it will make people begin to understand, because this has been evidenced in some of the interventions that we're doing. This is the approach that we have used.
And as well as communities, what does the government need to be doing more of?
The government needs to put more resources into this campaign against FGM. We need to have sensitized security personnel who are aware of the laws, who are aware of the penalties. So when you go to report a case for FGM, they take it seriously and they do what they need to do. We need to have people who are conscious that there are laws there. People who will do mandatory reporting without actually, because that's what the VAP Act says. The VAP Act, you can do mandatory reporting. If you suspect, or you think, or you feel, or you hear, you are expected to report such a suspected case to the police. You understand? So if the government puts it as a priority, I don't think that we have prioritized abandonment for FGM in Nigeria. Actually, we have not. That is why it's still there.
And ultimately, from your work with the FGM, what would you say is the most effective method to end FGM?
Okay. I can say that there are a variety of methods. We have legislations now. We have legislations at the national level, and we have at the state levels. So what we need to do is for government and other stakeholders, including the UN and the NGOs and everybody, to also make this legislation popular, so that people know that there are legislations and there are provisions that ban FGM, so that people can be able to act on it. Secondly, I also think it's important for us to have a media campaign, to be able to invest in a media campaign, because the media reaches a lot of communities. So it will be advantageous to the campaign, to the abandonment of FGM, if we invest in a broad media campaign that will address some of these issues and reach where we cannot reach. Also, we also need to invest in dialoguing with communities, talking with men, with women, especially fathers-in-laws, mothers-in-laws, even grandmothers have been identified to be perpetrators of FGM in some of the communities where we work.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Ibukwe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for your mails, as always. Keep your views and comments coming using the address and Twitter handle on your screen. You can also let us know anything happening within your area, especially if you're in the nation's capital. Don't forget, you can view the program on youtube.com/channelsweb/videos, and you can make your comments after viewing the videos. Always remember to include your name and where you're writing from. I'm Yemisi Paye. See you next week.